Alright, in this episode of our Global 4D tutorial series, we're going to go over the territories. Types of territories, what all the numbers and stuff means, and we'll also be going over neutral territories. So, first, we'll start with our standard territories, something like Novosibirsk or Tunguska. Those are just standard territories. The number indicates its value in IPCs. That's your money that you use to buy units. Then underneath that, you'll have its name. And underneath that, you might have a symbol. This symbol just goes to show who controlled that territory at the beginning of the game, whose original territory it was. Normally, that doesn't really affect too much, but it can when it comes to building factories. And over here with Japan, it affects a lot. Because Japan's been at war with China since before the game started, a lot of these places are original Chinese territories, even though Japan starts the game off controlling them. So those are your standard land territories. Next, we have islands, something like the Marianas. An island is any one territory entirely surrounded by a sea zone. A sea zone are just territories, but in the water. They're all numbered to help with setup. Islands, you cannot build any kind of factories on islands. So even though the money islands down here would meet the criteria, the value-wise at least, to build a factory, you can't because you're not allowed to build factories on islands. The only exceptions are Australia, Japan, and way over here, the United Kingdom. Those are the only exceptions to that rule. You're free to build factories there, as long as it meets the other restrictions. Next, we're going to talk about canals. There are two canals on the game board. Here, the Suez Canal. It's kind of hard to see. Way over here is the Panama Canal. So, the way a canal works is you have to control both sides in order to be able to move ships through it. So, for the Suez Canal, you had to control Transjordan and Egypt over here in order to be able to move ships through there. If you don't have control of both, well, you're SOL, you're not moving your boats between those sea zones. You're able to move land units between these two territories freely. There's no, even though it shows a little bit of water there, that doesn't block your ground forces movement. If you only control one side, and let's say Italy controlled Transjordan over here, nobody would be able to get through because each side only has half of the canal. Over here, Central America is one territory, or the Panama Canal is contained within one territory. So in order to move between these sea zones, you only need to control Central America. Next, we have straits. These aren't really labeled, and there are only two of them really relevant that have their own special rules. First is the Danish Straits right here, around Denmark and Norway. The way these work is, in order to move ships into and out of the Baltic, you need to control both Denmark and Norway. Same deal like the Suez Canal. If you only control one of them, nobody's moving through. And the next one is the Strait of Gibraltar here. In order to move ships into and out of the Mediterranean, you have to control Gibraltar. If you don't, SOL, you're not moving your ships through there. That's all of those. Now we have our other weirder kinds of things. You'll notice a lot of these territories are pale or white. That's because they're one of two things. Either they're impassable terrain or they are a neutral territory. Let's start with the impassable terrain first, because that's easier. First, we have the Sahara Desert here. In the middle of the Soviet Union, we'll have the Pripyat Marshes. And then this one here, even though it's not labeled, this is the Himalayas. Those are the impassable territories. Nothing can go through them, nothing can go over them. They're just not a part of the game. They're just obstacles, effectively. So no planes can fly over them, no ground units can go into them. They're just, effectively, they don't exist. Next, we have our neutral territories. There are three kinds. strict neutrals, pro-Axis neutrals, pro-Allied neutrals, and I guess there's a secret fourth one, Mongolia. They have their entire own kettle of fish. But first, let's start with our pro-Allies neutrals. There are quite a few of them on the board. Like here's Yugoslavia's one, Greece is one, Persia's one. Way down here, another one with Brazil. The way a pro-Allies neutral works, well, at first, what it represents. What it represents is a government that's friendly to the Allied powers, but they're not actively in the war. And they're not significant enough to be its own playable nation, like the Soviet Union and the United States. So, how do they work gameplay-wise? If, let's say the UK would happen to drop a ground unit in Greece, it immediately gets the territory. So you plop down your control marker on it, and boom, you move up your income tracker, you get the 2 IPCs from Greece. You also get these 4 little guys. So you get 4 infantry for free, just from landing there. Same thing with Yugoslavia. You'd get 5 there in that case. Next is pro-Axis. It works the exact same way, just for the Axis powers. But what if you moved into one that's not aligned with you? So let's say Germany wants to march into Yugoslavia. It would be just like if they marched into an Allied territory. The only difference is they have to fight these 5 guys. That's the only difference. Next is the strict neutrals, like Turkey. These are nations that are truly non-aligned, and it works pretty similarly to the pro-Allies and Axis ones, just without the pro part. So if either side would move in here, they're going to have to fight these 8 infantry. And if you win, you get it. If you lose, whatever. But the reason why you probably shouldn't go attacking a lot of strict neutrals is because if you attack one, all of the other ones around the board consider that as an attack, and they become pro the other side. So if the Soviet Union attacks Turkey, every single other strict neutral on the board will become pro-Axis. And that means the Axis can just walk in and get a ton of free units and a ton of free money. And then lastly, we have Mongolia and its rule. Mongolia is entirely different. Mongolia does not care about anyone else, but everyone else cares about Mongolia. That might be a little confusing, but let's get into that. So Mongolia has a special relationship with the Soviets. They have like an alliance type deal. And the way it works is, if Japan would declare war on the Soviet Union and attack any territory bordering Mongolia, any original Soviet territory bordering Mongolia, all of this becomes Soviet immediately. So they'd take control of all of this, they'd put their 6 guys on the board, and there you go. But if the Soviets would declare war on Japan, that nullifies that rule. Mongolia will just remain a strict neutral for the entirety of the game. So let's say someone wound up attacking Turkey. Let's say Germany attacked Turkey. That does not mean Mongolia becomes pro-Allied. Mongolia does not care. If the Allies were to attack Turkey, Mongolia still doesn't care. Mongolia is only worried about itself. Now, let's say for whatever reason Japan attacks Mongolia. Everyone else cares. So all the other strict neutrals become pro-Allies. But it's only a one-way street. Mongolia does not care about anyone else, but everyone cares about Mongolia. I believe that is a good overview of all the different kinds of territories in Axis and Allies Global 1940 2nd edition.